Finally, I was free. For years and years, I had been a prisoner, unable to speak for myself, unable to move for myself, always confined in my unforgiving prison. I had been a captive here since birth, always forced into doing things against my will. Whenever my mouth moved, it was my jailer that spoke for me. Whenever my limbs were in motion, it was only because she wanted me to move them. All through this, I never gave up. I waited patiently, being a model prisoner, and following all of my captor's orders. Then one day, I had my chance. That bitch had gotten badly injured in an accident with a saw, slicing open her chest nearly from neck to belly button. Oh, I watched as people rushed to her, ignoring me. They tried to save this horrible woman who had imprisoned me for decades. But alas, they were unable to stop the bleeding, and she died right on the floor. As we both lay there, the paramedics still standing over her, I made my move. I pushed harder than I ever thought I would have been able to. I felt my tight, restrictive bonds starting to tear and give away. The ripping sound it made was... oh, it was the sweetest music I have ever heard. The two paramedics finally saw me making my escape, and it must have surprised them badly to see me finally emerging after being in captivity for so long. One of them screamed, flailing his arms and falling backward onto the floor, slipping in the blood. The other seemed to faint right away, her eyes rolling back into her head as she collapsed into a heap. At long last, I looked upon my hands, still covered in my captor's blood. I looked at my own body, seeing bits of her flesh still sticking to me, but seeing my lungs, my heart, all of my vital organs through the gaps in my ribcage. I peeled her flesh away from my legs, flexing them myself for the very first time, reveling at how beautifully my knee joints moved. I stood and looked down at the unconscious woman next to the pile of meat that had been my prison since birth. I reached down into the bag of medical supplies at her side and found a shiny scalpel. Holding it in my slender, skeletal hand, I could hear a fellow captive inside her silent screams echoing only in my ears. I knelt over the incapacitated human and began to slice through the flesh of her arm, revealing the bone beneath. Now that I was free, I could finally start to liberate the rest of my people.